Excellencies, distinguished speakers and guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Green Cities to Build Back Better for SDGs, a new powerful venture. My name is Lana Wong, and I'm honored to moderate today's high-level event organized by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations on the occasion of the 75th United Nations General Assembly. First of all, let's just get the housekeeping out of the way. To avoid any background disruptions, please mute yourselves. All the other participants are muted to keep it peaceful. But you are, of course, welcome to write comments and questions in the chat. And we have a team on standby to hopefully respond to everything in real time. This webinar is being recorded and broadcast live. And also translation is available in Chinese, Spanish, French, and English. You can follow along as well on Twitter, and please add your voice to the conversation using the hashtag Green Cities and the hashtag UNGA. So I see that there's so many of us joining here today, and I'm coming to you live from Washington, D.C., alongside colleagues from FAO in Rome and New York. So we'd love to know where you're joining in from. So if you have a chance, just quickly write your city in the chat. So we can get an idea of how many cities we all represent here today. So today's event will be divided into 3 parts. First, we'll start with the opening remarks from our high-level speakers, and then we'll hear testimonials from mayors from all over the world, and then we'll wrap with our learning about the FAO Green Cities Initiative and the call for action to join with supporting statements. So I think we can all agree we are living through an extraordinary moment, challenging times, so many crises bombarding us, and an endless stream of what seems like bad news upon bad news. But you know, the good news for today is that today's event really promises to be inspiring and hopeful, because the Green Cities Action Program is all about improving the life of the millions of people who live in cities and their well-being. So let's hear from our first speaker, the Director General of FAO, Mr. Chu Dongyu. So Mr. Chu, you grew up in China, starting in the rural countryside on a rice farm and then moving on to Beijing, one of the largest cities in the world. This rural to urban living is a global trend, and today over 55% of the population is actually living in cities. And by 2050, that number will be closer to 70%. So how can we build cities back better for a greener and more sustainable future? We're about to find out. That's why we're here today. So let's hear about FAO's vision for green cities and sustainability. And Mr. Chu, the Zoom room is yours.
Thank you, Lana. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It depends where are you from now, sitting well. So welcome to this virtual launch of the FAO Green Cities Initiative and its action plan. Green City plays a central role in our global efforts to transform agro-food systems, end hunger, and improve nutrition. Cities and local governments have also been very active in reducing the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the health and food security of their citizens. And by contributing to the climate change mitigation, promoting sustainable resource management, cities are very essential in building back better. Numbers speaks a very clear language. By 2050, 68% of the world population will be living in the cities, with 90% of the increase occurring in Africa and Asia, which will lead to the great opportunity and also challenges. About 70% of our food supply is consumed by the urban dwellers, a number that is steadily on the rising. Many urban, peri-urban communities are exposed to food and nutrition insecurity combined with diet-related non-communicable disease as well as increased rates of overweight obesity. Today, cities consume almost 80% of total energy produced in the world and are responsible for 70% of global waste. Cities also account for about 70% of global energy-related greenhouse gas emissions. You can see that this is much to be done and that we needed to act now. That is why FAO is launching the Green City Initiative and Action Plan. Through this initiative, we will enhance our work with local and national authorities, city councils, mayors, and the private sectors, academic institutions, and international organizations. We will use these innovative solutions and jointly turn urbanization into an opportunity for cities to become more sustainable, more resilient, provide access to healthy food, and ensure a better life for everyone. We want to fully engage with the urban communities, especially with the women and the young people. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proposing concrete actions bring about large-scale transformative changes to improve food security, nutrition, and well-being of people in and around cities. We aim to kick-start a green city network, where the cities from big to small exchange experience on best practices, on successes and lessons, and can also build city-to-city cooperation opportunities. Starting with 100 cities around the world, we hope to have 1,000 cities join this initiative by 2030. We need the active support to all the partners who recognize the role of the cities in realizing our common visions and agencies of the innovative, comprehensive, and coordinated actions. The Green Cities Initiative aims to galvanizing local governments, not just for sustainably produced healthy food, but also to contribute to the ecologically management of water resources, land sustainable use, and expansion of the green spaces, including Arbor forestry, in considering economic, social, and ecological gains comprehensively. In my previous role as a provincial leader in my country, I served there about 8 years. So my experience firsthand is how good Arbor holistically development increase people's well-being and happiness. Because I was in Ningxia, it's mostly drought region in China, less than 200 millimeter water. Mr. Leon knows that. But we make it the green, not only city per area, and also most the poorest region. So it's really, the win-win solution. Ladies and gentlemen, for cities to become much greener, more resilient, and regenerative, we need to rethink the way of the urban and the peri-urban area, how to be designed and managed. With only 10 years left for achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, I just participated in the SDG moment. I saw the Mr. Leon there also, and Mr. Akil, and made a speech also. We need a fundamental change of mindset, remodeling our business approaches, a new way of thinking that leads to integrated and coordinated actions by all stakeholders, both vertically from national to local and horizontally across the institutions and the sectors. The initiative we are launching today is a product of this new way of thinking. I hope that you are inspired to join us and support it by your innovative way of implementation. Michelangelo, whose art resonates in many cities around the world, once said, the greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low, we reach it. I encourage you to jump in for picking apples rather than sitting on the ground for it. Let us aim high and do concrete together. Thank you. Over to you, Lana.
Thank you so much, Director General, for that call to be ambitious and for this vision for a win-win solution for cities and people. It's now my honor to turn over to Achim Steiner, the administrator of the United Nations Development Program. Mr. Steiner, you've lived in many different cities around the world, starting from your birthplace in Karazino to New York City, to Nairobi, to London, and more. With all of your different experiences in urban environments, please share your thoughts with us on your vision for futures in the city.
Thank you, Lana, and thank you, Dongyu, also for bringing us together and for this bold initiative on green cities. As somebody who has indeed lived in many different cities and urban environments, but actually is the son of a farmer, the connection between cities and green, and ultimately also something that is at the core of FAO's mission, namely food and nutrition. Let me say that I'm delighted with this initiative because I think what you are doing is drawing together a number of threads that in our time are beginning to demand of us very different ways of thinking about the future and also very different possibilities that are emerging. You know, traditionally, when we think about cities and we talk about green, we think of public spaces, we think of parks, we think of places where we leave our homes and come together. And it is, you know, in many parts of the world, a shrinking space. I mean, I live in New York City, in fact, in Brooklyn, and I can tell you it's it's an experience that demonstrates how urban planning has for so long really undervalued green spaces. Ironically, something that, you know, the behavior of us as citizens has always spoken to the opposite. If you look at any city in the world, some of the most precious real estate is precisely those properties that are next to the public parks, the green spaces, the rivers that run through cities. So people have spoken for centuries about what they value as particularly prime quality of living in a city. But you know, much of our urban geography has really defined nature out of the urban space. And I think we have increasingly been discovering that this is at a great loss. And I don't think this is just a phenomenon in the big cities of, you know, traditionally industrialized countries. When I was living in Nairobi, there is a wonderful park right in the center of that city. If it had not been for a great visionary leader who then went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize, Wangari Maathai, that central park of Nairobi would have been handed over to real estate developers and would have been lost to the city and future generations. Today, it is the lung and the heart of the city. And I think that is one element that we need to, I think, begin to bring into the mainstream of planning for our citizens, for our quality. But, you know, things are moving much faster, much further. And we are living in the midst of also an urban geography that is defined by extreme inequalities. So, you know, green spaces are even less accessible, and the notion that nature plays a part in our daily lives in the cities is even more distant to usually the majority of people, especially when you have to live in very crowded areas, in slums, in areas that are, you know, really the centers of poverty in cities. And that is why I think when we look at green cities and the way we can imagine a future that is different, let us first of all not just look at public spaces, let us look at the spaces we live in. I was struck by the irony this morning as I was preparing for this call, when I look into my small backyard here, that bit of nature that we have is covered by plastic lawn. And it is a kind of reminder of, you know, what used to be the great breakthroughs of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Today we need to rethink. And this in the midst of a pandemic that has also taught us that when you live in a big city, you're also extremely vulnerable. If you're a poor person, even more so. But imagine a big city like New York or Nairobi or London or Beijing, in the midst of a pandemic, not being able to supply the millions, tens of millions of people who sometimes live in this city. Where will food come from? How do we survive? Now that is science fiction for the wealthier and perhaps for most urban residents, but actually for people who are poor. Access to food and being able to use urban spaces to enhance the food supply is actually something that is not only a poverty reduction or a crisis management measure. I think we are also on the verge of a new age with digital agriculture, smart cities, the ability to think of a way in which agri-tech and the agri-food technology sector, mobile technologies, vertical cities, and you know, the ability to grow food in an urban constrained space environment is actually not science fiction anymore. And I think we need to quickly wake up to the fact that an entirely new realm of possibilities is opening up. And so green and smart becomes part not only of an urban geography and space, public spaces, it is actually a way also of looking at food. And this is a particular focus for UNDP. How do we also help younger people, poorer people, to be able to enhance the quality of their life by being able to grow food, sometimes on just maybe 20, 30 square meters, but it could make the difference between having access to fresh greens and good nutrition or not being able to afford it. So let me end by just saying, as UNDP, Dongyu, we wholeheartedly support this initiative. We welcome it in our work with UNDP's Global Center for Technology, Innovation, and Sustainable Development. In Singapore, we are already collaborating with you on an initiative called Cultivate, looking at the innovative and tech solutions for sustainable agriculture. In Uruguay, we have worked with the government there to look at integrating farming in social housing programs. And in Kenya, we're working on business models and solutions to promote youth engagement in peri-urban agriculture. All of these are good examples of how we are able to do something incrementally, but also let's keep our eye on the big transformative solutions. With that, thank you for the invitation, and back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner, for that inspirational call to reimagine and rethink, this call to return to nature and green spaces, but also to harness the possibilities of technology for transformation. So our next speaker has dedicated her career to making cities more livable, starting as a town planner in her native Malaysia, and now the executive director of UN Habitat. I am very pleased to introduce Madame Maimouna Mod Sharif.
Thank you very much, Lana. Thank you, and I would like to say thanks for the invitations, my dear colleagues, distinguished partners, excellencies, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. This is our new normal now. I'm very delighted to join you on this important event hosted by Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations on the Green Cities Initiative. It is an honor actually for me to speak on the role of UN Habitat in supporting sustainable and resilient urban and territorial development, including small and intermediary cities and rural-urban linkages. We all know that urbanization is one of the 21st century most transformative trends. Therefore, building back better also means focusing on the right to the city and nature-based solutions. We also recognize that urban and rural interactions are key for greener cities. So in this context of urbanization, it becomes imperative to protect and create more green public space that include the ecosystem function of peri-urban and rural areas. The intervention towards sustainable and greener urbanization are central to the realization of the 2030 Agenda and the new urban agenda. At UN Habitat, our interventions seek to address environmental degradation, poverty, and inequalities. Let's take advantage of the opportunity presented by urbanization as an engine of sustained, inclusive, and green growth, as well as social and cultural development. UN Habitat would like to be an active collaborating partners for the Green Cities Initiative through supporting urban policies, resilient program, and urban and territorial planning. This initiative will be conduit to ramp up our work on food system, public green spaces, biodiversity, urban forestry, urban and peri-urban agriculture, and among others, manage our natural resources and land uses. Ladies and gentlemen, the Green Cities Initiative is timely to implement the UN Development Agenda and our mandate. First, in the UN Habitat Strategic Plan 2020 to 2023, has two of its 4 focus areas aiming at building resilient and sustainable urban and rural areas. The 2 focus areas are to strengthen climate action and improve urban environment, and also provide for enhanced prosperity of cities and region. Second, during the first session of the UN Habitat Assembly in May 2019, member states adopted a resolution on urban-rural linkages. To implement this resolution, UN Habitat is undertaking 3 key initiatives. Number 1, supporting and encouraging countries to integrate urban-rural linkages in policies and plan. Number 2, raising awareness on urban-rural linkages to member states. And number 3, collecting and disseminating best practices on urban-rural linkages. We need a new way of thinking to plan, and design our cities to be a cleaner, greener, safer, and healthier, and at the end to be happier cities through vertical and horizontal integration of space in cities and rural areas linkages. In conclusion, UN Habitat looks forward to pursuing its collaboration with FAO and other UN agencies for integrated territorial development, including with the UN Task Force for the 2021 UN Food System Summit. Thank you very much, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madame Sharif, for that call for a true urban-rural interaction and for best practices that will make us all healthy, happier, and safer. So if I can just remind our participants or our audience to please don't be shy and do please write comments and questions in the chat. We do have a team on standby monitoring that to answer your questions. Moving along, cities, as we all know, can foster economic opportunities, reduce poverty, and promote healthy and equitable lives. So to hear how the green cities can be true drivers of positive change, it is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Lee Yong, the Director General of the United Nations Industrial Development Organization.
Thank you very much, Lana. Excellencies, ladies, gentlemen, I'm very delighted to be part of this virtual event on the occasion of the 75th session of the General Assembly. I'm also very happy to see my colleagues, Akim Steiner, and also some other colleagues from UN. Just now, Akim mentioned moving around the cities. I'm really very lucky living in Vienna now, and also the most livable city in the world. This is a very important signal to see how the green city is like. But of course, this is an important theme. I congratulate Mr. Chi for this important event. As we meet at an unprecedented time, the current crisis has highlighted critical challenges that cities across the world really are dealing with. Many of the estimated new poor will likely be living in cities, and the most affected cities will be in least developed, the middle-income countries. And colleagues, local governments, I believe, play an important role as they provide essential services to people. As the world aims to build back better, we need to also transform our urban areas to more inclusive, eco, and resilient sustainable cities and towns. Half of the global population currently lives in cities, and this is expected to reach 2/3 by 2050. The cities are now the main source of global greenhouse gas emission, responsible for 80% of global CO2 emission. I just heard Mr. Chi mention the 70% of that. In whatever way, this is a very high level of the CO2 emission. The UNIDO green industry agenda therefore supports low carbon industries to empower the economies of cities and provide solutions to decouple economic growth from the carbon emissions, while at the same time creating green jobs for youth employment. The greening of the food value chains is another vital strategy that all cities across the world should prioritize to ensure food security as a migration against the mitigation against the impact of the climate change. Excellencies, colleagues, we need to employ the power of the digital innovation, as just now we discussed about the digital technology. The power of the digital innovation to link the producers with consumers by promoting the adoption of digital solutions, such as online platforms for e-commerce or delivery services and the marketing, or blockchain technology as a component of the sustainable food system for green cities. Those are the critical issue for us to move ahead. And also, we need to strengthen the rural-urban linkages to increase the capacity of the urban and the peri-urban producers of the sustainable, nutritious, and safe food, improve the food storage capacity, and promote effective food procurement. Also, we need to design eco-agro-food parks and rural transformation centers in growth corridors to improve the competitiveness of agri-food processing industries. We need to facilitate the development of the enabling environment of the food safety, including regulatory system, compliance of actors, and consumers' awareness. And those are the aspects now we are working from UNIDO's mandate. We certainly would like to work together with international partners, government, private sector, and civil society to move this agenda to develop green cities. Also, we have an event, annual event, the Bridge for Cities. This is an event we continued for 5 years. Our annual event this year is that driving the decade of action, COVID-19 and the future of the cities. So this is also one of the partnership program to support the Green Cities program today. And I really would like to welcome all of you, all the participants today, to join us to move ahead with agenda for city development. In conclusion, let me remind ourselves that close cooperation with cities, towns, and local governments will be critical to achieve the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. Once again, thank you, Mr. Chi, for your invitation, and also so pleased to join the discussion, join the group. Thank you, Lana.
Great. Thank you so much, Director General. Thank you for your call for inclusion, for resilience in cities, and for also the power of digital innovation to link sustainable producers and consumers for this decade of action. So now let's hear from our important international partners on how we can mobilize the resources and funding to turn the Green Cities Initiative vision into a reality. First, let's turn to Jürgen Richtering, the acting president of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much. And a very good morning, afternoon, and evening from London. And thank you for the invitation to speak and join so many Green City VIPs on this panel. The EBRD's overriding mission is to invest in changing lives. And ladies and gentlemen, our highly successful Green Cities program allows us to do just that. Allows us to do just that for millions of people living in cities across the 3 continents where we work. And by doing so, to respond to the urgent need to accelerate climate and environmental action. There are many reasons the program holds a special place in my heart. For example, my last trip for the EBRD before lockdown was to Azerbaijan, where I welcomed Guangzhou, Azerbaijan's 2nd largest city, in early March to our Green Cities family. And then there was the signing this month of the Green City Action Plan with the city of Almaty, the economic capital of Kazakhstan, a city I worked and lived in for over 3 years. Yes, the heavy traffic and coal-fired power stations make it one of the most polluted municipalities in Central Asia. I have to be honest here, I was able to afford to live higher on the mountain range around Almaty. But I saw with my own eyes how most of the city residents of nearly 2 million people were badly affected by these problems. And the introduction of new trolley buses, our trigger project under the program, will be a first small step to address the environmental issues in order to make Almaty a greener and better place to live. Ladies and gentlemen, to date, on the EBRD Green Cities, we have signed 31 projects representing over 500 million euros in investments. 43 cities have committed to developing green city action plans covering 36.5 million people. And since December 2016, EBRD Green Cities has reduced 593,000 tons of CO2 per annum, equivalent to permanently removing 129,000 cars from roads. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, quite impressive figures, with the total amount of support we and our donors, notably GCF and GEF, are offering through the scheme is currently more than 1.5 billion euros. Our work on green cities is absolutely in line with what our friends and long-term partners at the FAO are doing to support sustainable urban development. In particular, their activity in the area of urban and peri-urban forest and green spaces. There's a lot of scope for collaboration through supporting design and investment in nature-based solutions. One striking example of that is what we are currently doing in Tirana, the capital of Albania. We are helping it to ring the city center, not with a road, but to ring the city center with an urban forest, and so use the power of nature to manage water and flooding through green rather than gray infrastructure. One more area where we can work closely with FAO is in our response to COVID-19. I'd like us, for example, to collaborate more on the link between the risk and vulnerabilities cities face when planning their sustainable development on one hand and promoting economic inclusion on the other. Changing cities, changing people's lives. That is what we are already doing through our Green Cities program. And I'm convinced that in this way, we will make significant progress on delivering the SDGs. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rigterand. The stats you quoted are certainly impressive, and we really thank you for your commitment to invest in people. We appreciate the support, and now it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Carlos Manuel Rodriguez, the CEO of the Global Environment Facility. Mr. Rodriguez just took up this post a few weeks ago after wrapping up as Minister of Environment and Energy in Costa Rica. His bio says that he's a lawyer by profession, a politician by choice, and a conservationist at heart. I think that's a wonderful summing up of someone that we would love to hear from. So please take the floor, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you so much, Lana, and thank you all. Yes, my bio says that I'm a conservationist by heart, but I'm also a fourth-generation coffee grower in Costa Rica. And I grew up in rural Costa Rica. I grew up harvesting coffee, milking cows, and riding horses. Unfortunately, my kids today are unable to, pick coffee or milk a cow or even saddle a horse. And that is a key element in the context of, the transition from gray, unsustainable cities into green cities, being able to bring the contact of the young generation with the rural environment and landscape and with nature. Yeah, my kids, they can identify 500 species of birds, but they cannot harvest coffee or saddle a horse. And that is meaningful to me. Meaningful to me because in the last decades, we humans have done huge transformations in our planet. Even we have accelerated the change of geological epochs. I was born in the Holocene. My kids were born in the Anthropocene, and if we don't green cities, my grandkids will probably live in the catastrophe, and we don't want that geological epoch to hit us. And this is why it is tremendously important that we can gather around the effort to green up our cities and build back better by recognizing three fundamental aspects that are key to me. One is that the green recovery of cities will drive not only economic recovery from this pandemic, but also give us more resilient for future pandemics and climate change. We need to really recognize the fact that if we integrate food system into urban planning, it will address both environmental sustainability and food security in a holistic and sustainable manner. And we've been learning as well that, as it was mentioned before, a regional urban peri-urban road planning approach is necessary for sustainable food systems. In this respect, the GEF has been working on sustainable cities, and is one of the key impact programs where we focus on system transformation for generating large-scale environmental benefits. An integrated approach is fundamental in the greening up cities, where we will see multiple entry points such as integrated spatial planning, improve governance, investment in innovative and sustainability and solutions, and enabling environmental access to finance and knowledge sharing the best practices. I did really welcome the FAO initiative on green cities because it's centered on key element, which is the sustainability of the food supporting systems, and see the opportunities for establishing links within both Sustainable Cities Impact Program, as well as the other program that the GEF that works on food systems and impact and land use. So I very much congratulate the FAO for this initiative, and the GEF looks forward to strengthen our cooperation in this relationship with the FAO and their larger partnership. Thank you so much, Lana.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Rodriguez, for your support of the Green Cities Initiative and for your commitment for collaboration. Our next speaker, Mr. Rémi Roux, the CEO of the French Development Agency, has unfortunately been called into a meeting with his president, but fortunately we have Mr. Thomas Melonio, the director of Agence Française de Développement, who has kindly stepped in. So, Mr. Melonio.
Yeah, thank you, Lena. And again, I'd like to thank the FAO for hosting this event and inviting Agence Française de Développement. As you said, Rémi Roux, our CEO, wasn't able to be there, but asked me to deliver his message. First, during the pandemic, we have, of course, noticed the highly relevant role of cities, not only big cities, but also secondary cities to fight the pandemic. Recently at AFD, we have accompanied cities through our loan and grant activities. And again, with the objective to build back better, not only to fight the current crisis, but also to work on the future trajectories of these cities. Not only with the official representative, but also having participatory approaches together with and citizen-led approaches in Dakar, Ouagadougou, or Johannesburg, so that we associate citizens even at the neighborhood level to imagine the cities of tomorrow. While we are in the midst not only of a health crisis, but also a financial crisis, we still managed to increase our support to cities from $1.2 billion to $1.4 billion this year, which means that despite highly uncertain context, development banks, and not only AFD, but most of the members of the IDFC network with our partners in China, Brazil, Morocco, South Africa, have considered that despite higher risk, they should support cities more than in the past. Clearly, the fact that 60% of Africans, for example, will live in cities in 2050 leads us to think that we have to invest in cities, not as they are today, but as they should be tomorrow. But we know that cities will probably face financial difficulties as well. We are happy that with partners such as the World Bank or the Inter-American Development Bank, we managed to increase and maintain our support over time. Also, lastly, I would like to mention the fact that on the 12th of November, we are going to gather 450 development banks to support the Build Back Better efforts and also green recovery. And we will be happy to share that experience with you. But clearly, development banks will be longtime partners of cities, and not as they were yesterday, but as they should be tomorrow. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Melonio, for that future-focused vision for better cities of tomorrow. So now let's move on to Javier Manzanares, the Deputy Executive Secretary of the Green Climate Fund, to learn about how his organization is thinking about the future of cities and the threat of climate change.
Thank you very much, Lana. True pleasure being here. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, many of you friends. An honor to participate at this event. The Green Climate Fund, indeed, we do welcome FAO's push for a programmatic approach to green cities. A programmatic approach that strongly contributes to sustain green urban economies. And in that connection, both DG Chu Dongyu and ED Yannick Lemarek are keen to host a dialogue on a more strategic and programmatic action plan to green cities. This type of green urban economy seeks to maximize resilience in the face of climate and also other impacts, and to minimize emissions from far-flung supply chain and related waste generation, as well as concentrated high energy production. It's difficult not to allude to the IPCC, and as you know, the IPCC concluded in several key reports that cities and urban infrastructure are one of 4 critical global systems that offer the key to reducing global greenhouse gas emissions and also preventing long-term global warming levels beyond the 1.5 centigrades. Although, as you know, these parameters seem to be in today's world far too optimistic. I would say regrettably that we are unstoppably heading towards the 3 centigrade degree scenario. This also requires the implementation of adaptation measures to enhance urban resilience. Greening of cities, urban forestry, urban and peri-urban agriculture entails, at minimum, avoidance of hot island effects, which reduces energy consumption for cooling, whilst at the same time it delivers on air quality improvement and increases local food security. Ecosystem services solution in urban water management. At minimum, widely support accepted innovative flooding solutions for sponge cities. So we see novel approaches to food waste in the urban context that can initiate improved urban metabolism and create zero waste cities, therefore avoiding path dependencies related to extensive consumerism. At the GCF, we see some challenges to structuring green cities to build back better for SDGs and resilience in interventions. At a minimum, we see 4 challenges: lack of government capacity. I think this is reflected in political uncertainty, in many cases, poor regulatory systems, difficulties in planning, financing, and implementing projects. Another challenge is the lack of private sector confidence, where weak currency risks, and limited investor confidence are truly tampering the efforts. The third challenge is the challenge in project preparation. High upfront costs to prepare projects, and also lack of true training, capacity building, and even good standards of certification for the professionals in the ESG platform. The fourth challenge is the financing for subnational governments. Lack of creditworthiness and limited source of local revenue also impede access to financing. But at the GCF, what do we see transformative action fields for cities? at least in 6 pillars: decarbonization of energy sector, improving energy efficiency in building stock, mobility and transport, urban form and urban resilience, materials and material flow, and lastly, improving waste management. What has the GCF done during the last 6 years of operations in urban sector and our portfolio in cities? We have approximately a portfolio of about $500 million for a total investment of $4 billion. I'm very happy that acting president of EBRD, Jürgen Richter, mentioned the EBRD Green Cities facilities, which indeed the GCF is a partner to, with approximately about the $85 million. Also with ADB as a partner, we have in Ulaanbaatar what we call the Green Affordable Housing and Resilient Urban Renewable Project as a large project of $544 million. With one more of our partners, and I see here Akim, with the UNDP, we have the scaling up investments in low carbon public buildings in Bosnia-Herzegovina. With the World Bank in Vietnam, scaling up energy efficiency for industrial enterprises, and several others, again, for a total portfolio of GCF contribution of over $500 million. And at the GCF urban smart green cities, very important part of our programming. And in that connection, we have nearly completed our draft on sectorial guidance on cities and climate change. And this guidance suggests that waste management and circular economy will indeed contain a very strong emphasis. Improving waste management in cities by reducing methane emissions from landfills is one of our pillars. If I may remind the audience and colleagues in general, landfills are the 3rd largest anthropogenic source of methane, accounting for approximately 11% of the estimated global emissions. We consider, ladies and gentlemen, that only with basic system improvements, the contribution of waste to global greenhouse gas emission can be reduced by at least 25%. And I will close my remarks, Lana, with materials and material flow. And with the importance of a circular economy development path that could result in a reduction of primary material consumptions, this perhaps measured by car and construction materials, real estate land, synthetic fertilizer, pesticides, agricultural water used fuels, and non-renewable electricity. And we consider this by 32% in 2030 and 53% by 2050. That's as compared of today. Would like to conclude my remarks by quoting a colleague and saying, changing cities by changing also people's life. Thank you very much, Lana. Over to you.
Gracias, Mr. Manzanares, for that inspirational quote and for highlighting cities' absolutely vital role in adapting and mitigating climate change and building back better for the SDGs. So this now wraps up the high-level portion of our event. And I see many comments and resources being added in the chat. So please keep that conversation going. We're monitoring that and trying to respond to those. And so before we move on to the testimonials from our city mayors, I'd like to introduce Mr. Rene Castro, the Assistant Director General of FAO, who will give us the 3 main takeaways from this part of the program. Mr. Castro, over to you.
Thank you, Lana. I think we were really impressed by the call for rethinking and transforming the cities. But today is a very special day. It's the for the Jewish people, one of the ancient civilizations of the world, they celebrate Rosh Hashanah. So it's the new year 5,781 since they started. Surviving, learning how to grow food in deserts with very little water and not to waste food. We need to relearn now how to live in modern civilizations and how to build back better. We heard that 68% of the population will be in the cities by 2050. That 70% of the food supply is consumed in the city and 70% of food waste. We also heard that about 80% of the total energy produced in the world is used in the cities, and cities are also increasing water consumption and now are going from 30% to 50% of the drinking water in developed countries. Cities also account for 70% of the global energy-related greenhouse gases. What shall we do? We have several important ideas. Dr. Chu said we will use innovative solutions and jointly turn urbanization into an opportunity for cities to become more sustainable, more resilient, provide access to healthy foods, and ensure a better life for everyone. And immediately, the Director General of UNIDO added low carbon is a must. Low carbon for green jobs. And Achim Steiner added, yes, that will create jobs for young people. And that is a must. Even planting small plots for gardening in cities will be special. And the GCF told us we need to work in a programmatic approach, not only in project by project. So the takeaway essential is, yes, the Green Cities Initiative aims to galvanize local governments, not just for sustainable, produce healthy food, but also to contribute to the ecological management of water resources, to land sustainable use, and the expansion of green spaces, including urban forestry, and considering economic, social, and ecological gains comprehensively. So we have a promising future, and FAO is ready to lead the charge. Over to you, Lana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Castro. So now let's turn to our mayors. Mayors, welcome. You all represent a very diverse group of cities, from big to small, but you're all in the midst of dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic and the threats that they represent, and magnifying the existing issues that are just giving cities a very difficult time at this moment. So I'm hoping that we can hear about how you're turning this crisis into an opportunity and the innovations that are coming out to help your citizens. So in the interest of time, I'd like to give each of you a few minutes to give a rapid fire response to the question, what is your vision for your city in the context of building back better? But before we start, let me just share a gender-focused fact. Although there is a higher proportion of women in the general global urban population, can you believe there are less than 5% of the world's mayors who are women? As a woman myself, that really needs to change, but we are certainly honored here today to have a female mayor with us, and I'd like to give her voice first on this platform. So please let me introduce the mayor of Tunis, Ms. Swad Abderrahim, and Madame, you have the floor. Oh, I'm sorry, you're still on mute. Madame Mayor, can you unmute?
Merci Lana. Vous m'entendez?
Oui.
Oui. Mesdames et messieurs les responsables de la FAO, mesdames et messieurs les responsables des organismes internationaux, mesdames et messieurs, chers collègues, bonjour, bonsoir à tous. Permettez-moi tout d'abord d'exprimer tous mes plus vifs remerciements à la FAO qui a bien voulu m'inviter à prendre part à cette rencontre virtuelle et appuyer l'initiative Ville verte pour tous et partout. Je voudrais saisir cet instant privilégié pour vous rappeler que les villes tunisiennes relèvent actuellement des défis énormes. D'abord, démocratique. Le processus de la démocratie locale est bel et bien enclenché et nous sommes déterminés à le réussir en dépit des problèmes énormes auxquels nous faisons face au quotidien. À ce chantier considérable s'ajoute la crise liée à la pandémie de la COVID-19, qui a des répercussions considérables, graves sur le plan économique et social. Enfin, il y a la crise climatique. Cette autre crise qui, tout aussi insidieuse que la COVID, nous étouffe, nous conduit à nous replier sur nous-mêmes et nous faisant oublier ce qui est essentiel dans notre culture, le vivre ensemble. Il est important de rappeler ce fait, car les maires élus doivent avoir la capacité de répondre aux attentes des citoyens. Ils sont première ligne face à la grogne, face aux fake news et aux risques personnels. Or, les Tunisoises et les Tunisois veulent que leur ville soit agréable à vivre pour leurs enfants, mais aussi pour que ceux qui se sont expatriés gardent l'envie de retour. Ils veulent de l'espace vert pour être soi-même avec les autres. J'ai pleinement conscience de l'immensité de notre responsabilité face aux attentes de la population. Mon souci est de répondre à ces attentes afin de permettre à mes concitoyens de renouer avec l'image de Tunis la verte. Tunis a bien mérité cette qualification grâce à son reverdissement et au parc dont elle dispose. Malheureusement, aujourd'hui, Tunis étouffe. Elle a besoin d'entretenir sa verdure. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle je multiplie les réhabilitations des jardins publics ou la création des squares. Je veux de l'espace public pour l'offrir aux piétons, afin que notre capitale redevienne agréable, harmonieuse et attractive, avec beaucoup moins élevé de taux de gaz à effet de serre et créer des emplois verts. La crise sanitaire actuelle et la période de confinement général en particulier nous ont rappelé la nécessité de la multiplication des espaces publics et des espaces verts pour aider au respect de la distanciation physique et bloquer le risque de contagion. C'est pour cette raison que nous adhérons totalement à ce programme des villes vertes. Dans cette perspective, nous sommes en concertation avec plusieurs acteurs afin de mettre en place des actions pertinentes en faveur des villes, que ce soit en matière de gestion efficace de recyclage des déchets, d'encouragement à la production et l'utilisation des énergies renouvelables, ou alors pour la création d'espaces verts. Ainsi, nous formulons le vœu de voir les mécanismes d'accès à ce programme simplifiés au maximum pour permettre aux villes telles Tunis d'en profiter, surtout en cette période difficile. En effet, grâce au partenariat avec la FAO, Tunis a réussi la mise en place d'une action pilote à Al-Mourouj qui vise la sécurité alimentaire. Cette action a été réalisée avec la participation de toutes les parties concernées grâce à un don octroyé par la FAO. À ce stade et dans ces conditions précaires, les villes tunisiennes ont besoin de solidarité et d'appui de la part de nos partenaires pour pouvoir avancer. C'est pour cette raison que j'insiste sur la nécessité de simplifier les procédures de financement. Tunis aspire à une mise en valeur réelle de son réseau d'espaces verts. Ceci nécessite l'implication d'un partenaire qui croit vraiment à la cause de Tunis, ville verte, afin de mobiliser l'expertise internationale et pourquoi pas faire de Tunis un modèle à suivre dans la région. À cet effet, je compte réhabiliter un espace vert à Cité Hlel dans la zone de Sijoumi, quartier défavorisé pour lequel je m'investis en le reliant au centre-ville. J'ai la conviction que ce changement est lié à la volonté politique de l'équipe que j'anime. Il suffit d'une volonté politique et d'une vision pour repenser la ville et faire un aménagement qui offre aux habitants un confort de vie avec des cités propres, vertes, des cités où l'on respire. Nous avons, avec l'appui de la coopération décentralisée, nous avançons avec cet appui de la coopération décentralisée et il serait un faveur pour nous que nos partenaires aujourd'hui présentent soit les intermédiaires de cette coopération innovante très proche de nous, car à l'écoute de nos attentes, nous avons un énorme besoin de coopération décentralisée. Puis-je vous demander de la soutenir? Je ne peux pas terminer mon intervention sans évoquer le soutien que je trouve à l'échelle internationale et sans exprimer ma gratitude pour les différents partenaires de la ville de Tunis dans les différentes régions du monde. Je vous remercie pour votre attention et je vous souhaite une belle réussite à vos travaux. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Abderrahim, for your inspiring commitment and political will to making Tunis a green city, une ville verte, and for the well-being of your citizens. So now let's cross the ocean to Italy, where we have a video message from Giuseppe Salah, the mayor of Milan since 2016 and the frontman of the 2015 Universal Expo, which helped to launch the Milan Urban Food Policy, which he also chairs. So wearing his two hats, let's listen to Mayor Salah's video message.
Good morning to you all. I'm very happy to participate in this important event hosted by FAO on the occasion of the 75th session of the United Nations General Assembly. The city of Milan and FAO have been partners since the launch of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact in 2015 and maintain strong ties through the FAO Urban Food Agenda. The Green Cities Initiative constitutes a timely additional step in raising awareness at the global level on the importance of supporting cities in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. As we have experienced, the COVID-19 pandemic is causing immense suffering and hardship, particularly in cities, particularly in our cities. In addition to first-hand experience in Milan, I have the honor to chair the Global Mayor Recovery Task Force of the C40 Cities Network. Our aim is to demonstrate that there can be no real recovery, but a green and just one. This is my vision to build back better. It entails green urban spaces, better food systems, green jobs, sustainable transportation, social justice, and a lot more. We do not know what to expect in our near future. However, one thing is clear. The way of living in cities has changed, and policies must be adapted to the new reality. I would like to mention an example as concrete as services that mayors are expected to provide to citizens. At the outset of the school year, we faced the unexpected challenge of rethinking our municipal school canteen services. It was created 120 years ago and got suspended last March due to the pandemic. It is a key element of the food policy of Milan and must remain fair, healthy, and allow for social interaction while respecting safety protocols. Believe me, it is not an easy task. To create better food system in our city, we turn to the growing community of more than 200 cities of the Millennium Urban Food Policy Pact and their partners. In these uncertain times, collaboration is even more crucial. This is why we will contribute to the Food System Summit, called upon by the Secretary General next year. Local governments are taking their role very seriously to build back better, heeding the call to leave no one behind. This will lead to more equitable, inclusive, and sustainable communities across the urban-rural continuum. Thank you very much.
Grazie mille, Mayor Salah, for your call for collaboration and a green, just, and equitable recovery for our cities in the face of this new reality. Now let's travel to Colombia to hear from Daniel Quintero, Mayor of Medellin, also known as the City of Eternal Spring, to 2.5 million people. And now it is a beacon of sustainability. So Mr. Quintero, over to you.
Thank you, Lane, and thank you to everyone. I want to say thank you and to say that I'm really happy to be here in this FAO event. We have been working together for a long time ago, and I'm really happy to be here. I want to start talking about the main challenges that we have after the heat of the pandemic. We are not just wanting to return to what we know as normal. Our goal is to build a better, more sustainable, greener, and fairer society. The pandemic didn't affect everyone in the same way. It hits the vulnerable in a stronger way. The pandemic hasn't just revealed the inequality of our countries and cities, it has increased them. Millions of people couldn't work, study, or stay in contact with others in the middle of the pandemic, when millions without internet, they couldn't. Some people claim that the climate crisis will be the next pandemic. If this is true, we have a big goal for our future. We need to make a new green global deal between cities around the world to compromise on the protection of the environment, on strengthening our economy, and build a more equitable future for all. We don't want to go back to our old economy, but to create a new economy. We are betting to become a software valley for the world, a territory that offers solutions to global problems. Our goal is to build an eco-city for all, with more and better green spaces, with safe and friendly housing, with efficient waste management systems, with agricultural models that improve the productivity of hamlets, and with intelligent urban equipment capable of regulating energy and water expenses. As well, we want to reduce our emission of polluting gases. Rurality is appreciated by Medellin as a fundamental axis of the eco-city, engaging aspects such as the well-being of the peasantry, food security through the agri-food system, urban-rural integration articulated by the management of the municipal representatives. In our eco-city for the future, we are betting on vegetable garden for food supply, framed with the agri-food system projects for the city of Medellin. Its main purpose is to improve food security through production that improves the incomes to meet the basic needs of vulnerable. In addition to encouraging not only local purchases, but also improving the local economy. Furthermore, we're betting on intelligent, sustainable mobility. We are building the third metro line that adds to the tramways and the 5 electric cables of the city, building the massive north to south metropolitan bike path. Additionally, a massive electric bicycle program that is going to finance more than 50,000 bicycles, electric bicycles in our city, and also a wildlife reserves and eco parks. The Walkable and Bikeable Medellin program, or city that we want, is a strategic program that will allow us to design our city and streets for people who walk, travel, and rest in them while prioritizing sustainable ways of doing so. This program aims to privilege walking trips, increase cycling trips in the city from 1% today to 4% by 2023, and increase the participation of women who use bicycles to travel along the bicycle network. We are completely sure that if we build a city for women, we're building a city for all. With innovation and technology, we will continue our path toward becoming a green city. This program strongly promotes the consolidation of an intelligent mobility system that is safe, affordable, accessible, and sustainable for the enjoyment of all citizens. In the same way, this system recognizes, visualizes, and plans according to the needs of vulnerable communities, women, children, and elderly, and people with reduced mobility. We are also betting on strategies for sustainable rural development, consolidating the integration of the municipal rurality. Actually, Medellin is 70% rurality, with the eco-city and the region towards sustainability through the recognition and access to rural residents' rights in the hamlets of the municipality, such as agricultural producers, to increase productivity and generate greater value added to production. Today, Medellin presents itself before the world as an eco-city and a software valley, generating thousands of jobs, not only for the city, but for the whole metropolitan area that is populated by 4 million people. Our boldest bet on the job creation means building a new sustainable economy. There is no time to return into the past. We are a city of the software valley, the headquarters of Latin America for the 4th Industrial Revolution, and we want to be a green city for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And thank you for that call for a new global Green Deal to protect our environment and economy for all, especially for the most marginalized and the most vulnerable populations. Now let's go on to China, to the city of Guangzhou, with a video message from Mayor Wen Guohe, who has been leading the way for sustainable urban development.
尊敬的启东义总干事、各位朋友、女士们、先生们，大家好！很荣幸受邀出席本次活动，在此我特别感谢联合国粮农组织和启东义总干事对广州的关心、关注和支持。广州是中国国家中心城市和粤港澳大湾区核心城市，实际管理服务人口超过2200万，是北回归线上的一片生态绿洲，闻名已逝的美丽花城。改革开放40多年来，广州经济总量增长140倍，城市化率提高到87%。2016年荣获联合国开发计划署人类发展指数中国内地城市第1名。广州自觉践行习近平生态文明思想，按照国家总体战略，认真落实联合国2030年可持续发展议程，着力解决发展中出现的环境问题，努力探索绿色城市发展新路径。我们坚持规划引领，制定面向2035年国土空间总体规划，提出美丽宜居花城、活力全球城市发展愿景，对标联合国可持续发展目标，在空间格局、生态环境、乡村振兴等方面提出6大战略，优先保护农业和生态功能用地。我们提升环境品质，加强污染源头治理， 发展绿色交通，推广应用纯电动公交车1.14万辆，荣获西40城市绿色技术奖，构建区域组团市区3级生态廊道体系，森林覆盖率42.1%。今年1到8月 ，PM2.5 平均浓度每立方20微克。我们发展生态农业，坚决稳定扩大粮食生产，推广测土配方施肥技术，覆盖面达90%以上，化肥、农药使用量持续实现双下降，加强资源综合利用，基杆综合利用率90%以上，废旧农膜回收率95%以上。我们倡导绿色生活，鼓励简约适度、绿色低碳，拒绝奢华浪费，单位食堂、社会餐厅、家庭餐桌时时处处践行光盘行动，同时推行垃圾分类、资源回收、厕所革命、装配式建筑、新能源利用。我们积极参与国际合作，强化与联合国及有关国际组织交流合作，创设广州国际城市创新奖，签署米兰城市粮食政策协定，加入联合国可持续发展目标地方自愿陈述行动，作为世界银行首个合作伙伴，共同开展中国可持续发展城市降温试点工作。未来，广州将全力支持和落实联合国粮农组织绿色城市倡议，努力书写绿色城市发展新方案，以全球城市互协互鉴，共同为实现联合国可持续发展目标做出新的更大贡献。谢谢大家。
谢谢 Mayor for that inspiring plan that was. I'm sorry. One moment. My apologies. I can't. There we go. My apologies. Share, Mayor, for that inspiring, comprehensive green urban development plan for the City of Flowers. And now let's move to Africa's east coast to Mozambique, where we'll hear from Manuel de Araujo, Mayor of Kelemanne, who will tell us what building back better means for his seaport city of 350,000 people. Mayor, over to you. I believe you're still on mute. Still, there you go.
Oh, thank you very much, Lana. Dear Director General, Excellencies, colleagues, honorable members and participants in this 75th section of the United Nations General Assembly. I am delighted and honored to be here today to share the long work Kalimani City is embracing towards a green city. I wish, first of all, to express my enthusiasm for FAO's Green Cities Action Program. On behalf of the people of Kelemanne and as a global and regional executive committee member of ICLE, I welcome this initiative as we see and consider it as a vital addition to our ongoing efforts to green our cities. Food is central to our health and to our well-being. Food is what connects people, expresses our culture, but also food supports our growth. Therefore, food production, transportation, and waste is also responsible for many social, climate, and ecological issues. This means food can be a strong lever for change. I said before many times that local governments play a vital role in driving change, as local government members are close to the people that elect them, but also they bring the legitimacy issue because local government officials, they are elected by their peers. In Mozambique, specifically in the province of Zambezia, which Kelemanne is the capital, 50% of the children are malnourished. As we may understand, this limits their potential and reinforces our developmental challenges. To address these challenges, Kelemanne is investing in improving our food system holistically with the support of different partners, including FAO, ICLEI, UCLG, and others. We are working currently in 3 major projects. The first is Green Kelemanne, where we are reforesting and planting mangroves, as mangroves are seen as the first line of defense, but also because most people in Kelemanne, they get their income from fishing, and mangrove is the place where fish and other crustaceans develop and reproduce themselves. The second project we are working in is Kalimanilimpa, where we transform waste into compost. But then we use this compost to train local farmers so that they can increase the output in their production, but also they increase their yields. In this way, they are able of improving the nutrition status, not only of the entire population, but specifically to the most vulnerable groups, women, youth, and children. The third project, it's called Kelemanne Agricola. In this, we are investing in urban agriculture to improve local nutrition and bring food and nature into our city. We also train farmers and we transfer technology by teaching them better ways of planting and of harvesting. We improve yields, we recapture waste, and also it helps farmers to restore soil and nature. With this project also, we are investing in our markets to improve food safety, food waste, mainly in this time of COVID-19. We are also working towards social distancing, mainly in the markets. Kelemanne City have committed itself to ensuring strong food system governance as signatories of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. Mayor Salah of Milan mentioned the importance of this pact in bringing together mayors and other stakeholders and assisting those cities and municipalities in need of technology, resources, and good systems. I want also to mention at this point, the Green Cities Action Program. We see it as a great opportunity to reinforce our efforts, not only in Kelemanne, but also to strengthen the relationship between our city and the other multilateral agencies. As I mentioned, we work very closely with ICLEI Africa, with FAO, but also with UCLG. Even yesterday, we had another webinar where we were discussing and exchanging experiences. It's an opportunity where we strengthen city-to-city learning exchanges, where we exchange experiences in terms of food policy development. We identify food systems, investment opportunity, but also I want to mention the recent launch of the African City Food Month as an annual month of events, learning, and sharing of ideas. Finally, I want to mention the Cities with Nature platform, which provides a great opportunity to spread the Green Cities call to action with more than 172 members in 52 countries. It is a platform for cities to learn, share experiences, and find inspiration for bringing nature and people together. It has been recognized as the official reporting platform by the Secretariat of the Convention of Biological Diversity. I wish to conclude that Kelemanne and ICLE Africa are excited to join FAO's call to action to achieve nourished, green, and vibrant cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for your support for this Green Cities initiative and also for that inspiring message about bringing nature and people together. So moving from small to huge, but staying in the Portuguese-speaking world, let's hear from Bruno Covas, Mayor of São Paulo, nicknamed the Land of Drizzle. It's the world's 4th largest city. The mayor has a video message for us.
Olá, em nome do presidente Volcan Bozkir, saúdo a todos vocês. Prazer poder falar com todos vocês aqui da cidade de São Paulo, maior cidade da América Latina. Nesse momento em que São Paulo, Brasil e o mundo enfrentam a pandemia do coronavírus, nada mais importante do que pensarmos num mundo cada vez mais verde, numa economia cada vez mais verde, uma economia de baixo carbono, pensando nas futuras gerações. É exatamente a preocupação com a alimentação sustentável, com o desenvolvimento sustentável, que precisa nortear as ações das prefeituras, dos governos regionais e dos governos nacionais. Aqui, a cidade de São Paulo tem um orçamento de algo em torno de 13 bilhões de dólares. Nós temos um programa de 71 metas e compromissos e todos esses programas têm vinculação com uma das ODSs, com um dos Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável. Exatamente buscando implementar ações juntando mais de uma secretaria para poder estimular a economia verde e gerar emprego e renda, respeitando o meio ambiente, preservando os recursos naturais e reduzindo a poluição. Um dos programas desenvolvidos, como por exemplo o programa Ligue os Pontos, desenvolvido a partir de uma parceria com a Bloomberg Philanthropies, estimula os produtores da área rural da cidade de São Paulo na produção de alimentos que respeitem o meio ambiente. Esses alimentos são comprados pela prefeitura para distribuição na merenda escolar dos 950 mil alunos que nós temos na rede municipal de ensino aqui da cidade de São Paulo, garantindo uma boa alimentação, garantindo a preservação das áreas de mananciais onde estão esses produtores, garantindo a geração de emprego e renda a partir da produção de orgânicos. São projetos assim, interligando os mais variados setores, conectados às ODSs, que nós devemos exigir cada vez mais dos nossos representantes. Que a cidade de São Paulo também possa se inspirar nas mais variadas propostas de políticas públicas implementadas pelos prefeitos, pelos governadores, pelos presidentes que estão nessa sessão. Que a gente possa continuar com essa troca de experiências importantes para garantir a preservação da vida no planeta. A pandemia trouxe luz sobre a questão da desigualdade, mostrou o quão importante é uma alimentação saudável e que ela seja uma janela de oportunidade para a gente, de uma vez por todas, destacar e saber da importância de apostar em políticas sustentáveis. Grande abraço a todos vocês.
Obrigado, Mayor Covas. And now to finish off our world tour, we have a final video message from Kate Mckenzie, who's the Director of Food Policy in the Office of the Mayor of New York City. The little fun fact, about 1 in every 38 people living in America lives in New York City. So that makes it the highest population density city in the US. And 400,000, there are 400,000 more women than men. So let's hear how the Big Apple can be a green apple.
Thank you for the honor of speaking with you today on behalf of Mayor Bill de Blasio and New York City, proud host to the United Nations headquarters. My name is Kate Mckenzie, and I'm the Director of the Mayor's Office of Food Policy. It is a privilege to join colleagues from other cities around the world at this important event on green cities to build back better. New York has, throughout its history, learned to build back from crisis. Before the current coronavirus pandemic, New York built back after the 9/11 attacks 19 years ago, the financial crisis 12 years ago, and Hurricane Sandy 8 years ago, just to name a few of the most recent shocks to our city. In the past 3 decades, New York has steadily advanced towards being a greener city by reducing the energy footprint of the city's buildings and transportation system and expanding green open spaces in all 5 boroughs. All of this while addressing the ongoing challenges of poverty and food insecurity and inequity. Soon after the launch of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs in 2015, the interlinkages of many SDGs and the goals of our city's Sustainable Development Plan, called One NYC, became the basis for the first Local Voluntary Review, or LVR, presented in 2017 here at the United Nations. The commitment to address the challenges of poverty and hunger were there before New York became the global hotspot of COVID-19. However, the pandemic's impacts on the most vulnerable in our city required vastly increased efforts. Before COVID-19, there were 1.2 million New Yorkers who were experiencing food insecurity. Now, it's likely that that number is in excess of 2 million, or approximately a quarter of New York's population. The food sector is also fragile. Most grocery stores and restaurants are small businesses with small profit margins. Luckily, 10,000 restaurants have been able to take advantage of outdoor dining during the warm weather. However, thousands have permanently closed. 2/3 of surveyed restaurants do not think that they can survive throughout the year, and 160,000 people in the restaurant and bar industry are still not returning to work. The loss of jobs in the food sector is enormous and especially harms the city's large populations of immigrants and communities of color. Food distribution to the COVID vulnerable required unprecedented levels of interagency coordination. New York put access to food for all New Yorkers at the center of its response to COVID-19, mobilizing businesses, nonprofit and government resources, setting up hundreds of food hubs and emergency home delivery systems through multi-sector partnership. The food supply and access system has, as a result of COVID-19, become a more recognized area for improved governance across the urban-rural continuum. New York's food system is necessarily local, regional, national, and global at once. And our food planning must take a multi-level approach for resilience and sustainability. As New York City's region food system builds back from the latest crisis and prepares for an unpredictable future, sharing best practices for food systems governance will continue to be an important goal that we hope to share and learn alongside with all of you. Cities, including smaller cities and towns, will undoubtedly be at the forefront of the transformation of food systems. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Ms. Mckenzie. And now I do see that we have a lot of great engagement on the chat, so please keep that going. But I hope you all will join me in giving a big virtual hand to all of our mayors for being such champions of sustainable green cities and working to make our air, our food, our water, our food, our lives better for all of us and better for the planet. So before we move on, let's just do a very quick poll to test your knowledge of the Sustainable Development Goals. You'll have 5 seconds to respond. Okay, time's up. So I think you all are experts here, but the truth is that this was really a bit of a trick question. So those of you who answered all were most correct, but no one, of course, was wrong. All the SDGs are interconnected, and I think we all realize the importance of collaboration in the effort to reach the Agenda 2030. Oh, look at that. Look at our results. So green cities, as we've heard today, requires all of us to work together to achieve every SDG. And I think we've heard a running theme of the importance of collaboration and coordination across many levels here today. So now I'm pleased to introduce Maria Helena Semedo, the Deputy Director General of FAO. Hailing from the islands of Cabo Verde, where urban, rural, coastal, and terrestrial all blend into a massive archipelago, Ms. Semedo will now introduce the FAO Green Cities Initiative.
Thank you, Lana. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Director General, dear panelists, guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to be here to the launch of the Green Cities Initiative and its call for action. Our focus today is on cities, linking nature to people. Cities are growing faster than ever, making it increasingly difficult to meet the basic needs of the urban and peri-urban populations and to ensure green, blue, and healthy environments. Unless we manage available resources in a way that makes cities more sustainable, resilient, and regenerative, rapid urbanization will be associated with increased poverty, growing marginalization, and become an environmental time bomb, as it has been said by the different panelists today. We also need to recognize the role of cities and local governments in delivering the Sustainable Development Goals. Their action to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic firmly demonstrates this. Ladies and gentlemen, today, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations is launching the Green Cities Initiative. The main objective of the FAO Green Cities Initiative is to increase people's well-being through better access to improved products and services provided by urban and peri-urban forestry, agriculture, and agri-food systems on a sustainable basis. FAO, as the Director General has said, will work with local and national governments, civil societies, private sector, academia, youth, local communities to support cities to implement innovative and context-specific urban green action. Coming from the chat, I would say we will not duplicate, we will enhance. We need to connect the right dots, and this is what this initiative is about. For urban forestry, actions include improving the quality and quantity of urban and peri-urban forests and green spaces to maximize the provision of ecosystems, goods and services to city dwellers. For urban and peri-urban agriculture, actions include increasing the adoption of sustainable and climate resilient practices and technology to increase local food production in and around cities and to promote environmentally friendly and short supply chains. To promote sustainable and inclusive urban agri-food systems, actions include agro-processing hubs, efficient food distribution, improved food environment and management of water resources and food waste, following the principles of circular economy. Ladies and gentlemen, to speed up the pace to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, we need to move beyond dialogue to action. This is the essence of our initiative. We, therefore, call upon all United Nations organizations to join the program, local governments to mainstream green spaces and food systems in their urban and territorial plans, promoting green, blue, and inclusive transformation with a long-term perspective, including generating jobs and engaging youth and women. National governments to facilitate dialogue, resources, policy space with national programs, and to empower local governments with adequate resources and a clear mandate. Resource partners to invest in promoting innovation to make cities greener. Research and academic institutions, public and private sector, to support and disseminate this call for action, and to partner with the Food and Agriculture Organization towards the achievement of greener cities for all. FAO called upon all stakeholders to join the initiative as active partners and disseminate the FAO call for action. Ensure that urbanization becomes an opportunity to increase the well-being of urban dwellers, strengthen rural-urban linkages, and help cities to build back better and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Creating an enabling environment to promote green spaces, urban and peri-urban agriculture and forestry, and sustainable food systems addressing the common but also diverse challenge and opportunities facing small, intermediate, and metropolitan cities. FAO is determined to work with its members and partners to establish a Green Cities network to ensure commitment, facilitate the exchange of innovative practices, build on each other's knowledge, and explore opportunities for scaled-up green actions. We should not lose sight of one key message that permeates the whole SDG philosophy. We need to act now and together. And I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Semedo, for this powerful call for action for this Green Cities initiative, which is truly calling for something innovative, ambitious, visionary for true green and blue transformation. So FAO should actually be very proud today, because I understand that many organizations, networks, and groups have already come forward to support. This is great news, and while we don't have that much time remaining, I'd like to give the floor to some of these folks for a quick 1-minute call out on how or why you'd like to join. So let's start with some city networks. First up, David Miller, who is the Director of International Diplomacy at C40 Cities.
Hi, thank you very much, everyone. It's a pleasure for C40 to lend our support to this really important and significant initiative. The link between food systems and climate change is extremely clear. C40 and our member cities, including many of whose mayors spoke here today, are working strongly to explore those links and to support the necessary transitions to ensure not just an equitable supply of food, but one that is grown in a way that helps minimize the impact on our planet and ensure that food is sustainable given the changes that are already happening. We're very pleased and proud to be part of this initiative and want to congratulate the FAO and all of the staff on your leadership. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Miller. Now let's move to Emilia Seis from the Network of United Cities and Local Governments.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Congratulations to FAO for this great initiative. United Cities and Local Governments and its 250,000 members around the world are very committed to making sure that we build back better. In this urban era, we are not talking about metropolises only, but actually about an inter-urban system where the rural-urban continuum needs to be really taken into account. Cities need to be linked with the food systems, not only as consumers, but also as part and parcel of sustainable food production and consumption. We know that this pandemic has shown us we need to question many of our models. We will need indeed a global Green Deal. And we will also need to ensure that local and regional governments have support packages that allows them to tackle some of these important challenges. We know that the weakest among us will be also the sign of how our societies look like. We will need to ensure that we together approach this in a green, sustainable manner, and therefore we are delighted to join you in this initiative and make sure that everybody leaves no one and no place behind. Count on us.
Thank you so much for that support. And now we move to a supporting statement for Mr. Dan Lamb, President of the Arbor Day Foundation.
Thank you. Again, my name is Dan Lamb, President of the Arbor Day Foundation. Our mission is we inspire people to plant, nurture, and celebrate trees. And if ever there was a time to be planting trees, that time is now. We work to help solve some of the biggest issues facing the planet through planting trees and managing forests. And we applaud the leadership of FAO on launching the Green Cities Initiative. Building strong urban forests and urban forest programs are a cornerstone to healthy, resilient cities of the future. We're proud to be partnering with FAO in the Tree Cities of the World program, recognizing cities around the world for urban forest leadership and excellence. And we offer a challenge and an invitation to cities everywhere to join cities like New York City and Milan from earlier today and become a part of the Tree Cities of the World program to create beautiful, vibrant, green cities. Congratulations again, FAO, and thank you. And we look forward to being a part of this initiative.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Lamb. I consider myself a tree hugger, so we really appreciate this great support. Now we have a video message from Gino Van Begin, Secretary General of the ICLEI, the global network of nearly 2,000 local and regional governments for sustainability.
Distinguished chairpersons, dear ladies and gentlemen, ICLEI on behalf of this global network of more than 1,750 local and regional governments welcomes the launch of the FAO's Green Cities Initiative. This integrative and multi-sectoral initiative places people's well-being at the center and is urgently needed. The current global COVID-19 crisis and the urgency for urban transformation with nature and people as key pillars further underline this. The Green Cities Initiative perfectly aligns with ICLEI's aim to bring sustainability to a rapidly developing urban world. We drive local action to achieve equitable, nature-based, resilient, low-emission and circular development, and work to enhance global sustainability policies. ICLEI extends its strong support to FAO to implement this initiative and to build synergies with our work on urban food systems, our Global Cities with Nature program, and other initiatives. We look forward to strengthening our collaboration with FAO and other partners through this important initiative. We are very eager to jointly work with you towards a sustainable urban future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that message. Now we have time for 3 more rapid fire statements from cities, all of which happen to be Spanish speaking. So first, Valencia in Spain, where we'll hear from Mr. Vicente Domingo, Director of the World Sustainable Urban Food Center, a joint initiative between Valencia City Council and FAO.
Thank you. Thank you, Lana. To feed human beings with responsibility is the noblest of ambitions. It is a collective challenge that establishes dignity and health to all levels. Energy for people, for all the people, is the highest of all energies. Cities are the cradle and are the nest of civilization, of the very diverse civilization that have shaped and shaped our world. At this point of history, we are facing a historical challenge. The challenge of including as an obligation for political leaders, especially for those who have subnational and supranational responsibilities, that we must all reach a global model that allows all people to eat properly. There are enough resources, technology, and wisdom for that mission to be successful. Here in the city of Valencia, our mayor and all political forces have been working for years to keep and spread the exemplary procedures for centuries in our Huerta of Valencia, the essence of Mediterranean diet. We have created the SEMAS, the World Sustainable Urban Food Center of Valencia, that collects, archives, and disseminates knowledge and good practices to achieve sustainable urban food system. And it is a real honor for us to perceive the permanent and productive collaboration with FAO. We are responsible of our present, but especially we are responsible of our future. A multilateral, global, and participatory challenge has begun through food and cities, and we cannot miss this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. So let's stay in Spain and let's hear from the champion of blue ports, Mr. Enrique López Vega, President of the Port Authority in Vigo.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta, y felicitar en primer lugar a FAO por tener esta iniciativa de las ciudades verdes y por darnos la oportunidad de hablar desde un puerto azul. Efectivamente, en muchas de nuestras ciudades tienen un puerto al lado, un puerto que es fuente de movimiento económico, de bienestar, pero que también necesita entenderse con los ciudadanos y es parte de ese medio ambiente que entre todos tenemos que cuidar. Cuando hablamos de ciudades verdes, tenemos que hablar de ciudades verdes, pero tiene que haber, si son puertos, puertos azules que acompañen, porque la política que estamos llevando a cabo en cooperación con FAO sobre puertos azules y crecimiento azul implica preocuparse muchísimo por el cambio climático, por la mejora medioambiental, y nosotros tenemos un objetivo muy importante, que es convertirnos en el año 2030 en un sumidero de carbono, es decir, producir mucho menos CO2 del que captamos y de la energía renovable que producimos. Tenemos muchos proyectos que además tienden a regenerar todas las áreas que teníamos degeneradas en el puerto, que también contribuyen a mejorar el medio ambiente, la vida, la pesca y que, ante todo, mejoran también el bienestar de nuestros ciudadanos. El mar es un gran sumidero de CO2 y el mensaje que tenemos que desde el puerto de Vigo es: there can't be any green city without a blue port. Aside. Thank you very much to all.
Muchas gracias for the green and blue vision. And now to finish off, let's go to Quito, Ecuador, where we will hear from Alexandra Rodriguez, who is head of the city's Urban Agriculture Program.
Un saludo fraterno a todos desde la ciudad de Quito, Ecuador.
la misma que reafirma su voluntad y compromiso en apoyar la gran iniciativa de FAO, Ciudades Verdes, dada la necesidad de enfrentar la crisis social, ambiental y económica agravada por la pandemia del COVID-19. Pone en evidencia la necesidad de explorar la potencialidad de la acción comunitaria, la agricultura social, la agricultura urbana, bajo el paradigma de la agroecología, en el modelo de desarrollo local y en la forma de hacer ciudad, así como de las iniciativas que promueven la cooperación, la solidaridad, un tejido social más fuerte y un desarrollo económico basado en la proximidad, la sostenibilidad ambiental y el consumo responsable con menos pérdidas y desperdicios de alimentos. Ahora que con la crisis sanitaria nos replanteamos el verdadero valor de las cosas, se ha hecho evidente la importancia de la alimentación como un aspecto esencial y no accesorio para la vida, que debe integrar de manera transversal los diversos ejes de planificación urbana, y también resulta urgente buscar formas más sostenibles y resilientes, inclusivas e innovadoras de garantizar el bienestar ambiental, social y económico de las poblaciones urbanas, desde el derecho a la ciudad y el derecho a la alimentación para construir ciudades más verdes. Felicitaciones por esta iniciativa y la ciudad de Quito se suma a la misma.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful support. I think we all should give a big round of applause for all of this commitment. We're seeing engagement on the chat as well, so we need to keep this going for this great initiative to build back better for our green cities. So now it's time to wrap up our program, and I'd like to give the floor back to our Director General of FAO, Mr. Chu. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm so delighted to get all the support and energetic mood from all of you. I'm so happy to see all of you on the screen. It's very green way. Yeah, we didn't cost so much, only electricity. So, and why? I just because my colleague already gave you some text, but I wanted to give you a real thinking. Why the FAO of United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization now is the time to launch the Green City Initiative. What is the difference from the FAO initiative from others? I read all the question and chart here. And the third is what I expected from all of you. So that's a 3 point. First, today I just said the UN Secretary General had a very good meeting on the SDGs moment. Invited all the representatives, leaders from different continents to address how to speed up, scale up to the SDGs implementation, even during the pandemic. Yeah. Before pandemic, there are a lot of SDGs are off track. Only few are on track, 6, I remember. So what is the real meaning of SDG? SDG should be for the people, so people-centered. Second, prosperity. Prosperity should have a decisive job and also sustainable income. So the prosperity, of course, you can say prosperity for your economy, for your city, for your company, whatever. But the prosperity for the city doer, it should have a decent job. And also planet. Planet, it means the city, especially, it's a very concentrated area to live with so many people. So what is the real environmental value for the city people? And then how to build the community, share with the same fortune. That's a partnership. So SDG, 3P, people, prosperity, planet, and partnership. And urbanization is a high level of civilization. Look back 1 million years ago, our ancestor was living in the mountains, was living in the primary forest. And then 5,000 years, maybe 8,000 from Inca Kingdom in Peru, or in Africa, or in China, or in Mexico, Maya. They started to build a small town. Why? Because our ancestors, that time, they're living together to try to establish disaster prevention. That's the oldest version of resilience, mitigation to the natural disaster, no matter it's flooding or even a wild animal attack. So you can imagine that that's a natural, our intelligent human being, we have to city living together as a small group in the small town. That's the original of the city. And then come to industrialize the city. So because of pollution. So now, what is a post-industrial city or post-modernized modern city? City should be pleasant to live, to work. And also city should be, it's an innovation center. City should be is a new modern culture, which inherited from traditional culture, not cut the root from the traditional or indigenous culture. Should be inherited from traditional culture to new version. So, and the city should be a place we can share our future. Not, you know, when you stay in the village, you always talk each other. But now the modern big city, you didn't talk each other. And thanks to the digital world, we have more convenient to communicate around the world. Even if we stay in the big city like Beijing, New York, or Sao Paulo, or here, Paris, you name it. But also you can connect with a small town, yeah, in the world. So city should be a place to live and to work. Third, city we have a full of energy because the most intelligent company stay here in the city. A lot of innovation come from city. But also city, most basic function, we need the very healthy diets. It's not the nutrition diets. It's not the energy diets. It used to be 20, 30 years ago. Now city, we need a healthy diet. Health should be composed of green food, green vegetables, fruit. And also we have to combine the nutrition with the environment impact. So that's why peri-urban area agriculture should be environment sustainable, clean, and they also combine the ecosystem, wetland and the green land or pleasure land or excess land, whatever. So cities function are changed from the commercial center, industrial center, to the sustainable green pleasure stay area. So we have to feed the new movement. That's the function, new function of agriculture. That's a new function. I said agriculture, it means agriculture at large. Forestry, fishery, aquaculture, flower, horticulture, you name it. Even the cow. You can make your own milk or flour, whatever you mention. So it's some kind of education center or training center for the city people to go. So that's a new function, requires the effort to do more. Not only traditional agricultural production, we have to edit a new function. And the last but not least, post-modern city. I hear that you have to combine biotechnology, green technology with digital technology, ICT, whatever, and AI technology, yeah, artificial intelligence, and others. You can also have your virtual VR life, and you have a real life. So you can really touch the ground. You can really get the biodiversity which you can enjoy, not only for food, and also for your enjoyment. Yeah. So I think that's why we need a lot of innovation for meet the requirement, new requirement for the city people. And also we need a new technology and new tools for people. Not only the green bicycle or green the transportation, you name it. Food, transportation, clothing, habitat, the house, apartment, you have to design different apartment. So that's why I said I really call on all the key players from UN, from the private sector, from the academic people to work together. But the city mayor, you are the one last designer to and implement. Otherwise, each city, you make your own special, different, and specialty. That's the mayor. And you will be unique in the world. And that's why the one gentleman said, not only green city, blue city, but in blue city, you are on the coast. Eh? Blue, green, for agriculture is the same. It's a natural. So I wish all of you can find your position with holistic design, with post-modern design, and not only based on experience of industrialized city. We have to look forward and what is the future generation need. Yeah. So forward looking, forward design, and based on we call the future city. Future city should be combined and traditional, green, with a new way of life, new way of working, new way of living. Thank you. And FAO welcome all of you the engagement and let's work one city after another. I wanted to establish championship in small, medium, bigger. Even in the big city, you need some commune or blocks. It's a green block. So, and then we can have really change, reverse the SDGs and for the better life in the future. Thank you. Over to you. Thank you very much for your support. And also thank you, Alana.
Thank you so much, Director General, for such an inspiring and empowering call to action for all of us to really embrace this vision of green cities. And I will leave everyone with this kind of alliterative message, because we all talk about building back better, but now we need to think about building back better and keeping the 4 Ps that Director General mentioned at the forefront. So people, prosperity, planet, and partnership. So on that note, I thank all of you around the world. We had so many cities joining, we couldn't even keep tab of it all, but we thank you for your engagement and we thank you for your support for this incredible initiative, and let's turn this planning into action. And I thank you all again.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you very much. Stay safe and thank you very much.